Good news, everyone! Hey, remember good news? Well, here's some. Shooting has officially begun on Thor: Love and Thunder, one of the most eagerly awaited productions on Marvel's upcoming slate. We have had confirmation that, along with Chris Pratt as Peter Quill, Tessa Thompson as Valkyrie, Chris Hemsworth as the Mighty Thor, and Natalie Portman as also the Mighty Thor, Love and Thunder will also feature Christian Bale as Gorr the God-Butcher. But how will writer-director Taika Waititi introduce this fearsome foe? Well, Thor Ragnarok might offer us a clue. So, Thor, god of thunder, Loki, god of mischief, Gorr the God-Butcher, god of prime cuts of locally sourced organic meat, god of cleavers and sausage? No? Not even remotely close? Okay. Gorr isn't actually a god at all. Very much the opposite, in fact. Gorr's creators, Jason Aaron and Esad Ribic, gave this tragic alien perhaps one of the more depressing backstories in Marvel Comics. First his parents died, then his children died, then his pregnant wife died, leaving him with one remaining child, who also died. Ooh, that's a lot of tough breaks. Having grown up believing strongly in the gods, Gorr decided, understandably, that such things could not possibly exist. Why would they have allowed him to suffer so much if they did? Fittingly, for a guy who seems pathologically unable to catch a break, Gorr was exiled for this blasphemy, and while roaming the wasteland waiting to die, he stumbled across the fallen bodies of two warring gods. A bit of good luck, perhaps, for Gorr? Well, depends on your definition, really. One of those dead gods, it turned out, had been in possession of All Black the Necro Sword, an immensely powerful symbiote made from living darkness, which immediately bonded with our confused alien. Granted immortality and incredible strength, Gorr vowed to travel the cosmos, killing every god he could find until none remained. Ah, okay. God-Butcher. We get it now. All sounds very adaptable so far, right? Strong motivation, colorful, violent, all pretty straightforward to translate to the big screen. Well, yes, except for one slight problem. We've already seen All Black the Necro Sword. Before Thor Ragnarok was released, the movie's producers hinted that the version of Hela we would see on screen would differ from the version we were familiar with from the comics. We knew that they planned to incorporate elements from other Marvel villains, including some taken from Gorr himself. This lines up with what we saw in the final film. Hela's ability to manifest a seemingly infinite number of weapons out of nowhere has clearly been borrowed from the God-Butcher, but it goes deeper than that. Because it is specifically the Necro Sword that gives Gorr those abilities, it must be the Necro Sword that gave Hela those abilities. Or at least a sort of hybrid of the Necro Sword and the Night Sword, which is the weapon that Hela usually wields in the comics. That's nothing new with the MCU, which has taken bits and pieces from different stories, different versions of characters, and even entirely different continuities, and then mashed them together to get something that works on the big screen. Nothing to be concerned about, surely. Well, no, but also, yeah, kinda. Because the Necro Sword isn't just a cool-looking visual or a neat weapon, it's an essential part of Gorr's backstory. Not just because it gives him powers, but because it drives him on his quest to murder every god he can find. It's bound to his core motivations as an antagonist. Far more than just an accessory, it's almost a character in itself, which makes it slightly tricky that we've already seen it on screen. No doubt Taika Waititi is right at this moment sitting in his office, probably wearing a suit with pineapples on it, tearing his oh-so-stylish hair out as he tries to connect the red yarn on his whiteboard. Hey, don't worry, Taika. We got this. The golden rule of superhero movies and fantasy media in general is that if you don't see a body, there's a chance the person is still alive, and in the case of Hela, we assumed, just as Thor and Loki did, that her confrontation with the fire demon Surtur would be enough to finish her off. But there's every possibility that she could have decided to cut her losses and escape. Or alternatively, she could have fallen through a portal, mortally wounded, and died somewhere else. Somewhere like, for example, Gorr's home planet. There's no reason that the desperate alien could not stumble across the dead or dying Hela and bond with All Black the Necro Sword that way. It would make sense within the continuity of the movies, and mean that Gorr could use his traditional weapons and abilities, even though we're already familiar with them from the events of Ragnarok. In fact, there would be a certain narrative symmetry to this route. In Thor Ragnarok, Hela herself represented the dark, buried secrets of Odin and the other Asgardians. Secrets which were destined to come back and bite them quite significantly in the ass. Maybe there's still a little bit of ass biting left for this particular nasty little secret. Or maybe, just as Ragnarok marked the end of one cycle for the Asgardians, Gorr is destined to begin a new one. Let's just hope he doesn't kill too many more of Thor's people. There's only about 12 of them left at this point. Of course, Waititi and the MCU Brain Trust may have a totally different idea up their respective sleeves. That would certainly be bold, but it could potentially be a lot of fun. After all, when Iron Man 3 radically changed the Mandarin from a ruthless, if slightly culturally problematic evil genius to a drunken, horny old British guy, nobody complained, did they? Well, you can't please everyone.